gathering gnomes or following a main storyline, I have to prepare for both. So let's talk about what I just planned for. Welcome back, fellow Game Masters. I'm Richard, and this is another campaign log where we're talking about what I'm preparing for my players. As always, every week you can skip ahead to the halfway point and see what actually happened, but I want to go over my preparation and, let you know what I have planned for my team of players. As you may know by now, I am playing with a group, kind of a fluid group of 10 players that come and go, and occasionally they all show up. And last week that exact thing happened where all 10 players were here at once, and it was a great time, except they split the party, and then now they're on this weird side quest where they have to go gather 200 gnomes for Gnome Toss for a Dwarf King's birthday. Strange, I know, but follow me here. Gnomes are a normal race in the Dungeons & Dragons world, so it's not like they're collecting a bunch of hamsters. It's more like they have to get people who will come be tossed by these gnomes. So I have a couple ways that I plan on doing that. One is they can find a tribe of barbaric gnomes, which is an idea I had a long time ago, that I just like the idea of a tribe of barbarian gnomes, and they have all the normal stuff as a regular barbarian, but they're just smaller. That would be the route if the players want to fight. Like, that's probably more of where they will go. If they want to find something a little more reasonable and normal, so to speak, each major city will have a gnome kind of quadrant or a gnome quarter where they will be able to find a lot of people. The normal thing about these gnomes, or the thing they should know, is they will not be pushed around. So it's not going to be, we're bigger than you, come with us, or we'll hurt you, but it's more like, if they try that, they'll get into a fight, and the gnomes will have there will be a lot of gnomes. More likely in the city stuff, it will come down to a bargain. They'll have to pay for the services of the gnomes. It was kind of a weird, deal to make. I was okay with them making the deal. I mean, I made the deal. But in turn, and it's going to be a little mean to the players, I'm not going to give them everything they want to accomplish this. If they want to pay the gnomes, it's going to take more than half of the money that they were offered to gather these gnomes. And it's 200 gnomes. That's a lot of gnomes. They have to have the transportation to get them there, so that's another problem they're going to have to run into. If they decide to not chase after these gnomes right away, if they just take the vehicles and leave, they have potential to go to Waterdeep, they have the potential to go to Amn, or they have the potential to go to Silvery Moon and Triboar, which are older towns. Knowing my player who has connections to Silvery Moon and Triboar, the character is she will most likely want to go to Silvery Moon, tell someone in power there about Cyric and the god problem, and then go to Triboar and possibly try to ignore everything. We'll see. That's kind of what my gut is telling me. They might go and do this and then be like, okay, it's out of our hands now, here we go. Or they might surprise me and go to Silvery Moon, tell someone, go to Triboar and tell someone, and then head over to Waterdeep. Or I don't know which city they're going to go to. So I have to kind of prepare all of that. So Silvery Moon and Triboar are already kind of prepared. They have an established kind of scenario in each city. Amn and Waterdeep aren't as fully fleshed out, except that I mentioned before, I want them to be more dangerous and dark and kind of scummy places for the players to go. Waterdeep will be a little cleaner, a little nicer, just because it's Waterdeep and it's it has a seedy underbelly, but it's not as blatant. But Amn will be blatant, seedy scumminess. So depending on where they go, that's what they'll run into. But realistically, I'm more expecting the players to try and go get the gnomes and then go back for the birthday party to get the gold, where the bard is going to play a song. The twist with the birthday party, though, is the bard was not the original one scheduled to play at the birthday party. There was someone else named Turpin. The bard's name is Durbin, there's someone else named Turpin. It's kind of a rivalry they have. And so, Turpin was scheduled to play at this birthday party, but then they showed up and they did a little switcheroo, the old D&D switcheroo on the agenda, and they put Durbin in. So Durbin is now booked for it, but Turpin doesn't know that he's no longer booked. So there's going to be some conflict there. And Turpin will probably be a very high-level bard type person, so if they get into a fight, they might they might struggle a little bit. But he is an NPC that I have to create, which, in my mind right now, I like the bards to be kind of odd races. So I had one earlier who was a Kenku bard. The player is a Tabaxi bard. And so I'm thinking this next one will be something more like a 1T or some other, or maybe even a Tortle. A Tortle bard would be cool, right? Yeah, that's what it's going to be. He's going to be a Tortle bard, which I haven't dealt with Tortles yet. My players have never seen a Tortle that I know of, but that's what it will be. But that's basically the setup, and yes, I'm recording this actually the day before the session because I found myself with a little free time, and I was able to have it prepared, and I'm ready to go. Granted, I don't know what my players will do, so keep that in mind. And as always, wait around after the title card, you'll see it, or if you're on IGTV, check the next video. That's going to be uploaded right after this. And as always, thank you for watching. Alright, so thank you for waiting the 5 seconds while we had that little bumper. Let me tell you how the game actually went. You'll soon realize it was nothing how I had imagined. It was completely different. So, right from the beginning, things started off a little differently than the previous week, in which we only had 3 players show up to this game session. So, things were already a lot more focused and compact because it was only 3 players. That, in turn, made it for a very quick game where I was focusing a lot on trying to include all the 3 parts of the adventure, which I spoke about in this week's video, so I was trying to keep that in mind while playing this game, so I was trying to include some exploration, some social interaction, and some combat all in this one session. So what happened is the players started back at the vault where there was a bunch of magic items that these dwarves had made. And one of the players had this idea that maybe the third eye of Jomer, or Jomer's third eye, had some impact or some sort of influence over demons and demon stuff. So they asked the dwarves in charge of that area if they had any demon relics. Well, of course, the dwarves had a demon hand, in the vault locked below this vault. So it was like under a deep cave kind of system where they would keep the vault. And of course, the players decided they had to go check it out. They had to go find out if if Jomer's eye could really control a demon, because Jomer's eye is more like a gemstone. It's just a very fancy gem with some magical properties. So they made their first stop in this adventure over to the temples and the shrines, where I had set up a kind of a change in dynamic of the shrines, where I had several of the shrines to different deities had been crumbled since the last time they were here, namely Jomer, who they knew they had killed, Baal, who they had heard from Cyric that he had killed, and then last there was Helm. The Shrine of Helm was also crumbled. It wasn't said for sure if he was dead, but obviously that's the implication of it. But there they were able to find a priest of Moradin working in a temple. They convinced him to come with them to look at this demon hand. So they basically turned me into a DM PC, which I usually don't like to do. I'd like to just have the players do it, but they did, and I was able to help out and be a healer in that sense, because once they got down into the vault system below the magical storage vault, they found first several invisible spiders. That was like their first, they had a combat with a couple invisible spiders, and I used these spiders in the monster manual that were the phase spiders, I believe is what they're called. But basically they could shift from one plane of existence to another at will, almost. And so I got to use that once, which was pretty fun to have it like disappear and then reappear. But they were invisible, and the players got to figure out how to make that work with their characters and turn them visible. There were also traps. It was kind of a narrow hallway with some traps, and the druid decided to summon a rhinoceros in this narrow hallway with traps, which the other players weren't a big fan of the rhino in the hallway, because the rhino of course set off one of the traps, and they all took a little bit of damage. So in addition to the players fighting the spiders, they were also fighting the environment and dealing with the environment themselves. But the traps were only a one-time use kind of trap. At least these first ones were. After they defeated the spider, they did hear some voices down the hallway, so they followed the voices, which led them to more traps, which, in a fun twist of fate, the rogue, when he was going to attempt to disarm the traps, rolled a nat 1, and ended up hurting himself a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. But then after that, he was able to successfully disarm the traps, and the party was able to move through. After yet a third set of traps, ones being more like Indiana Jones boulders, which the rogue readily disarmed, had to climb up in the ceiling and cut some cables, but he was able to do it pretty quickly. They made it into a room where they found this person, or the voice they had been chasing, and a kind of a dais with some magic around it that looks like it had something important on it. When they convinced the thing they had been following to let them see him, because he was invisible, and they didn't want to waste a dispel magic on this invisibility, they were able to convince the person to come out and show that and talk to them. Then they charmed them, and then the person revealed that the hand they were looking for was actually attached to his body. And it was kind of like it was a were-rat, but mixed with a golem kind of thing, where he didn't want them to take the hand, and they quickly deduced that he was, kind of possessed by the hand. At the same time, they started hearing voices in their heads. A very booming, kind of a bro-y kind of voice would hit one after another and talk to them a little bit, trying to convince them to get him out of that vault, which they, of course, figured out right away. The hand is talking to them. They had to talk to the hand a little bit. They decided to help the were-rat. Rather than just kill him right off, they decided to help him by removing the hand and then healing him and keeping him safe. They learned also that this tunnel system they were in underneath the city of Baramoons also had a way to get into the Underdark, which is where he came from, where his family had lived. So they created kind of this quasi-ally, more of just like an acquaintance. They saved his life, they got the hand off of him and put it back on the pedestal. The debate they're having now is that they've discovered by looking at the pedestal that the magics that were designed to keep the hand safe and protected here have been weakened. And their weakening was caused largely by the death of Baal and the alleged death of Helm, and they were able to see kind of a line of different deities, like Sooth was there, and some other deity symbols around this pedestal that the hand sat on, but the magic was weakened. So, leaving into the next session, they have different options. They had talked to the priest that came with them and suggested that he get people down here to barricade the other end, to really seal it off physically and magically, add some more spells. But we did leave it with them in the tunnels down below. And at the end of the game, one of the players was talking like, maybe I should have taken the hand. Maybe we should have this hand with us, because in their minds, they're building more of a story up. By the conversation about the hand, they learned that the hand belongs to a character named Odin, O-D-E-N, not I-N. So it's not the Norse god, but it's different, a demon essentially, which is connected to an invasion of Faerun that happened 400 years prior. So the other thing that happened in this game, was we set a time frame of when this all was happening, and keep in mind it's my Faerun, it's not the official Faerun, so a lot of the names and places are changing. That being said, it was a unique... All that being said, it was still a neat experience, because that was never in my mind of this is how the story is going to go. Not in a million years would I have thought of them going to look for a hand underneath a city, and that hand having some connection to the whole story, but it played out in such a way, everyone was able to improvise nicely, they got along, they played well together, and I was able to pick up on the little things that they were trying to, they hinted at. And so whenever some of them had a potential story moment and they mentioned it out loud, I could decide either to make it that story moment or make it not that story moment. Obviously I had two choices. But I found often, if I made it that story moment, it just created a little more fun, and so the players had some ownness of the story, or ownership of the story, as much as I do of what's happening. And so there was a fun session. I hope we have more of these, even when we get back up to 10 players on some days. I really hope we have sessions where everyone can kind of come together and build the story themselves and find some fun in that. Anyways, thank you for watching this campaign recap number 3. We'll see you next time. Hey, thank you for watching. I hope this channel has been helpful to you in starting your Game Master adventure. If you feel inclined, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And as you'll see to the right and the left of the subscribe on this little end page here, there are more videos to watch on this channel. So click around, check it out, and thanks again.